as we shall return.
I'm sure all of us have interest in space. For me, what was fascinating about space was that the starlight, the distance was millions and millions of miles away. So what you were seeing when you saw a star currently was that it was 1,000,000 years old. And that always meant that you could actually go back in time. You know, it was a kind of a very interesting thought that if you're able to travel back, use the light as a kind of as an indicator, you could actually go back in time. And that struck me as something quite awesome, that if you froze time in some way, you could see the past, though the future is always what we want to see.
ऊपर से भारत कैसा दिखता है आपको?
This is way back, I think in 1984, around that time. What was decided at that point in time was that the person who would be selected would be from the Air Force. That is one of the criteria. And then they somehow narrowed down to that you need to have a test pilot experience. And both myself and Rakesh are test pilots. They picked a total of about 20 odd individuals, and thereafter a series of medical tests were conducted. But they physically, you know, how medically fit you were, how physically fit you were, that is one of the criteria. And subsequently, after India narrowed down to eventually 3 of us were then sent to the Soviet Union, at that time the Soviet Union, and they conducted a series of tests all over again. Subsequently then they selected Rakesh and myself, and the third individual came back. You know, when you're in space, because you're floating in space, and the spacecraft is going around the Earth, and it is rotating by itself, and your sun, and you're seeing the sun every 90 minutes. Out there, every 90 minutes is day. So your day is, you get a sunrise every 90 minutes is on each orbit. So you tend to get spatial disorientation, So because of your ear canals and stuff like that, medical reasons. So you need to practice that, and for that we were doing yoga, because we wanted to do yoga experiments in space.
I actually did interview Rakesh Sharma in 1982 when he went there. I in fact did the cover story for India Today, and we talked about why was it so important. Even at that time people said, so what? I mean, so many people have gone to the space, the Americans had even walked on the moon. What's so great about an Indian going on space? But just that fact that here was a person who was going into the unknown. No Indian had ever explored it before.
A group of young Indians have planned for the moon. They are entrepreneurs who have given up their regular jobs. They are enthusiasts fresh out of college. They are experienced scientists who want to break the mold. They are a 100-member strong team of perfect mix of youngsters with matured space scientists working to make India's first ever private bid to reach the moon.
What triggered this terrific idea of you leading a team, a private company, to put a spacecraft right up in the moon and actually have a rover roll on the surface when no Indian organization had done it, including Indian Space Research Organization?
Courageous or foolish, I think we'll find out afterwards. But till now, I think it's been an amazing journey. It was a great opportunity that I looked at and said, we need to be part of the story. that was all. I mean, we didn't have the resources or the ability to actually go after the problem statement. So it's been a great journey. After we started in early 2011, we've managed to find the support, we've managed to find the people, we managed to find the partners, and the investors who would support such a journey. So no complaints on that account.
But you must have had this moment where people said, are you crazy? I mean, Israel hasn't done it. They haven't been able to land a spacecraft. They had an impactor, but they've not really been able to land a spacecraft gently and then have a vehicle move on the surface.
So, you know, going to the moon is something that is a very complex engineering exercise. And for us, I don't know whether it was just the complexity of the exercise or it was space, but what we faced was you know, the classic catch-22 that any startup faces, which is in order to show progress, you need the money. In order to get money, you need to show progress. So yeah, I think the complexity of the assignment was a bit of a challenge for us to start off with. But as we made progress, I think things kept getting easier and easier. And the more that we progressed, the more people aligned with our vision. And that's something that has propelled us thus far.
This is part of the Google Lunar X Prize. In 2007, Google Lunar announced a challenge to develop low-cost robotic space exploration using 90% private funds. This robotic spacecraft would have to land on the moon on a specified site and move for at least 500 meters in a controlled manner and transmit images of the lunar surface that would mark its arrival and ending of the journey. The grand prize of $20 million has been announced for the first team to successfully complete the challenge, and a second prize of $5 million for the runners-up. Team Indus made it to the final 5 entries out of 32 registered teams. They have already bagged the Lunar X Prize for designing the best moon lander in 2015.
What is it that is scribbled out here? This looks like the Moonshot.
Exactly. So this is literally the map of our moonshot. So this is around where the PSLV leaves us at about 880 kilometers above the Earth's surface. So once it leaves us here, we start our first orbit, which is 880 by 70,000 kilometers. This is where we're trying to acclimatize our spacecraft to the environment of space itself, because it's never been here before, right? We figure out how it needs to be oriented and everything, make sure that the solar panels are pointing towards the sun. And then once we're back in this position again, we do a propulsive burn and increase this orbit by...
You got to tell me, what is the distance from here to here? This is 380,000 kilometers?
No. So the 380,000 kilometers is a direct line of sight.
All right.
Right? Roughly based on our trajectory, we'd be covering about 10 lakh kilometers, right? Because we're going there a lot slower. Thing is, if you want to go a direct line of sight, you need a lot more fuel, a much bigger rocket and a spacecraft. This trajectory is optimized for the weight of our spacecraft. We're going to be 600 kilograms when we launch. Right? Most of that is actually fuel. So we've optimized, looked at the size of our spacecraft, the weight of our spacecraft, made sure that this is the most optimal trajectory.
And let me just get this clear. It is, in comparison, if you have to send something, it looks easy. The moon looks so big here, and it looks like, wow, I can just shoot the spacecraft and it should go in a straight linear direction. But I'm told it is as difficult as putting, one of these 1 rupee coins 25 kilometers away and then taking, sharpshooting it and finding that mark. Is it as difficult as that when you send a spacecraft into this?
Actually, it is, because everything in space is tough, because you need to be extremely precise with your calculations, your maneuvers. Need to be to the nth decimal. It needs to be correct. Only then can you manage to achieve results, is through accuracy.
So if you send this out here, and if you do it too quickly, how long will it take from here to here? 21 days or?
So this is a 110-hour journey, right? From here. So we do a propulsive burn here.
Right.
And
that's 5.5 days.
Yes. So that breaks us away from the Earth's gravity and starts moving us towards the moon, where we can get caught by its gravity.
Now,
so
how long will this process of getting caught by the moon's gravity happen?
So like I said, so this is about 110 hours.
No, once you get to the moon.
Once we get to the moon, this should be about 9 to 10 hours we could take and reduce our orbits to...
So proportionately, what you see these circles getting slower till you lock on, and then you will land on the moon.
Yeah, so once we're around the moon, we are in a parking orbit of 100 by 100 kilometers, right? So we need to wait and make sure that our proposed or selected landing site is having lunar dawn on it.
Descent, depending upon the various geometries, when we get into the sphere of influence of the moon and get around moon, the phase of the moon will be different. Phase of the moon, why it is important is we have to wait for the dawn line from the capture to move towards our landing site. We plan to land immediately after dawn because the lunar day is 14 days, Earth days long, and it is best around dawn, and we want to finish all the work within the first few, maybe 3 or 4 days.
Basically, I'm building the softwares for the mission control room. So when our lander detaches from the PSLV, it will start sending data through the ground station to the mission control room here. So we will be processing that data and making it available for the people sitting over here. Basically, so that they can analyze that data and make further decisions on how the lander should move.
So the thing is more like this?
Yeah, that is the rover. That once we land on the moon, that rover will detach. It will come down from the lander, and then that will start sending images and more images and high definition videos. That is the requirement from GLXP. So it will send those things from.
And it will have to move for 500.
Yeah, it will move. It will keep on moving, and then it will stop and take photographs and send them back through the lander, ground station, and then to the this mission control room.
So your work involves understanding those data?
Yeah, the data that is coming, because the data is coming in the binary format. So we have to, and it is packetized data. So we have to unpack it, take out the data from those packets, make it human readable basically, and make it available for everyone over here.
Okay, what is human readable?
Human readable, like if the data is coming in zeros and ones, you cannot exactly read and understand what it's trying to say. So basically make it into actual numbers.
So you make it in layman's terms, or rather your scientific language.
Yeah.
And step off the limb. I guess you're about the only person around that doesn't have TV coverage of the.
If you look back, we were all fascinated by the fact that you had a moon landing. It happened in our generation. When Neil Armstrong went there, and I was in school at that time. We were all stunned by the news that a man could land on the moon and actually walk, and that historic statement, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. So I mean, these were the memories that sort of got me fascinated. And more important was that I was in Bangalore. And that's the great interest that happened in space, because Indian Space Research Organization headquarters was in Bangalore.
ISRO has improvised and developed technology by launching several indigenously created vehicles into space. From the modest start of launching Aryabhatta, the first Indian satellite using a Russian rocket in 1975, India has come a long way. On 15 February 2017, ISRO launched 104 satellites in a single PSLV rocket to create a new world record. Its heaviest rocket, Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle Mark III, was launched on 5th June 2017 and placed a communication satellite GSAT-19 in orbit. With this launch, ISRO became capable of launching 4-ton heavy satellites. Chandrayaan in 2008 and Mangalyaan in 2014 have ensured laurels for the country. In another year, ISRO plans to launch its Chandrayaan-2 mission.
Though the beginning was very modest compared to any other spacefaring nation, but today we are as good as any one of the spacefaring nations. So we have come a long way, and very treacherous journey, but it's a very satisfying journey. So when Aryabhatta was launched, first satellite, jovially told with the colleagues, we figured in the 2 rupee note of Indian currency. Today when Mangalyaan is gone, and we are in the 2000 rupee note of Indian currency. So we are all along with the Indian growth.
when I was in my final year, I was completing my college, I was looking at all job possibilities, I was looking through all the websites where I can search for jobs. So there is a website called Hacker Earth. It is a coding platform in which actually coders generally go for practicing coding questions, as well as some companies post their hiring challenges over there. So I came across this, there were a lot of hiring challenges over there, but this one in particular, the work experience range required has started from 0. This was the only hiring challenge over there which were actually they were allowing people without any experience to come to actually participate in the challenge. So I participated just for the heck of it. I was like, okay, what does it matter? I'm sending out my resumes to 10,000 places, so one more place. And it was a coding challenge. I don't know how I somehow passed that challenge, and then I got a call from Team Indus asking for a time slot for a telephonic interview. When I got the call for the telephonic interview, that was the first time I looked at the company's profile, and I was shocked. I didn't know. I was like, oh my God, they are working in space. Wow. I mean, I did not know how to react to that. I did not know if I was good enough to be a part of such a mission or to be part of such a company, or why on earth are they going to hire me? That was the only thought that was going on in my head. I was giving the interview from my college room, and the reception over there was just horrible. I could not understand the questions they were asking me. I had to ask them to repeat same question like four times, and even after that I was not able to understand what they are asking me, what should I answer. But with the answers that I gave, they got happy with those, and they actually invited me for an in-person interview. And when that happened, I was like, okay, these people have gone insane. After that interview, how the hell did they select me? Because that interview was horrible. After that interview, I was 100% sure I'm never gonna get in.
The memory I had when I was in college was that when I started looking at space, I was very interested in astronomy, looking at the stars and everything else. And I used to read a lot about it, and it used to strike me that to communicate, to send a spacecraft up, you only require, when you're communicating with them, a battery that you'd use in a torch. That just with a small battery, they're able to run the entire communication systems. If there's a time gap again, when it transmits, say, from the moon, it takes 5-6 minutes for us to communicate, and vice versa when we have to send a message back to them. So these were things that used to strike me as extremely curious. And I was very fascinated with this time lapse, time distance, and the amount of power that you would use, the miniaturization that we do.
You know, right from the beginning we knew that one of us is, so it's practically like the toss of a coin. And that's the way life is.
Sharma went up there. You were the person, like his backup, you were there. All those pictures that, should I say, like, we grew up with, that television conversation and all of that. It's everywhere you are sitting, you are talking, you have this on. So what it was like, you were not there, but you were already there.
Like for instance, there's a photograph here that as soon as they landed, the capsule lands in the sea. I was there, and to receive him as they got out of the capsule. There's a photograph here.
Space is highly utilitarian, apart from the excitement it brings in terms of thing. And I think India's program for many, many years was just on utilitarian space. It was not on exploration. Exploration came much later. And what we did was, over a period of time, build a fantastic capability to build giant rockets. We've seen the recent one, GSLV, going up with a huge tonnage of weight that would take large spacecraft into space, and also build really, really sophisticated satellites, not just for communication, but for remote sensing, but for navigation. We have got the state of the art right now.
Chandrayaan 1 made a big turning and the Mangalyaan has made it now. Now we are very confidently we are able to tell, sitting in this place, to my team, I think we must be able to make minimum 1 satellite per month. I think that is a remarkable change we have done. And that 2 satellites of 35 years back, a very modern satellites. Today, each one of the satellites what we make is a state-of-the-art sophisticated satellites. It's an order complex than what we have done those days.
I noticed that you've named all your people, like this is Team Indus, Fleet Commander, that's virtually out of star. Each one's got their own cabin, I can see, a Team Indus Jedi Master.
So our leadership and founding team are Jedi Masters, our CEO and founder. We call him our Fleet Commander because he's leading his entire crew into building a mission that's going to, launch for the moon in 2017.
Team Indus has actually kind of become our life.
Like a baby, when it starts moving in 4 legs, first stop will be nearest known to us, obviously the moon.
Space exploration is that power that we have built in the mind to build things that can extend our powers as humans. So it can take us the distance.
When you go up there, it's all the same. There are no boundaries, there are no countries, whether it's India, Pakistan, there's no boundary like it was before pre-partition.